Abraham, Isaac and Jacob were the forerunners of the Israelite nation, of the Israelite tribes. Jacob was renamed Israel. He had 12 sons, and they were the ancestors of the tribes. His favourite son was named Joseph. The brothers of Joseph were jealous of him, and he was sold into Egypt, where he was unjustly accused of attempting to rape, of attempting to molest the wife of his master, and he was placed in prison. In prison, he met servants of the king, of Pharaoh, and he successfully interpreted their dreams. And as a result, he met Pharaoh, he interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh, and he is placed in charge of the country, all of Egypt. And he saved Egypt from famine. He saved Egypt and the adjoining land of Canaan from famine. After that, he met his brothers, he was reconciled with his brothers, who also came down to settle in Egypt. And in addition to this, he reorganized the society of Egypt. He moved people from one area of Egypt to another. He switched people around, and he adjusted the system of administration and taxation. Joseph, through his dreams and the policies he had applied, in effect saved Egypt, saved Canaan from famine. This is similar to what the USA has done before then, and before the USA, Britain, what they did to save millions of people and to upgrade the whole of humanity, to bring humanity one step further along the pathway of progress. America and Britain encompass in their populations descendants of Joseph. They are descendants of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. The lost 10 tribes of Israel were exiled. They lost awareness of their ancestry, but they remained. Physically they remained, and they became great nations, became the nations of Anglo-Saxon English-speaking peoples and related peoples. That is, and the tribes of Joseph were preeminent amongst the lost 10 tribes, who had been taken into exile and lost awareness of where they came from. But in the future they are to be revealed. They are to have it known unto them who they are, and they are to become reconciled with Joseph. So this process, in a sense, was to some degree delineated in advance in the personage of Joseph. And in the same way as Joseph helped save Egypt and Canaan from famine, so to Joseph, the same way as Joseph helped save Egypt and Canaan from famine, so to the descendants of Joseph through the USA and before them Britain, saved a great many people. And this is a blessing that has been given unto them. Genesis 26:4, it says, "In your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. You shall be a blessing." Genesis 12:2. "And you shall all families of the earth be blessed." Genesis 12:3. "Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and in all the nations and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him." Genesis 18:18. "And in your seed shall all the earth be blessed." Genesis 22:18. "And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which the Lord has blessed." Isaiah 61:9. "It also be possess military might on a world scale, and all the nations of the earth be powerless before them." Micah 5, it says, and verse 8 onwards, The remnant of Jacob will be among the peoples, among many peoples, like a lion among the beasts of the forest, like a young lion among flocks of sheep, which he passes through, tramples down and tears, and there is none to rescue. Your hand shall be lifted up against your adversaries, and all your enemies will be cut off. It will become the battle axe of the Almighty, Jeremiah 51:19. The policeman of the globe. The British Empire's height covered a quarter of the globe and a quarter of its population, became the first global market, was the greatest and most successful exporter of its culture and values in history. For some time now, the USA has overtaken Britain, but it is doing much that Britain had begun. It is following in the footsteps of Britain. And the USA and Britain have common bonds of language, culture and ancestry. And this was exemplified in the Green Revolution. The Green Revolution began in the 1950s, but it really took off in the late 1960s. It saved millions of people from starvation, hundreds of millions of people. Many people throughout the world have been saved because of the progress that was undertaken that resulted from the Green Revolution. The Green Revolution consisted primarily of improvements in agriculture, in teaching peoples all over the earth, especially underdeveloped nations, how to improve their irrigation processes, how to use crops that were resistant to diseases, resistant to pests, and had greater yields, how to be more orderly and scientific and more progressive in their work processes. And millions of people in Mexico, people in India, people in the Philippines, Indonesia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and numerous countries throughout Latin America, Asia, North Africa. All of them benefited from the Green Revolution. The Green Revolution is just one small example of the good that has come from descendants of Joseph, and they are following in the steps that Joseph began. They're continuing the work of Joseph. Joseph was a prototype for what they have been doing. Joseph gives expression to the role of Israel in this world. Joseph has the ability to induce Israelite awareness amongst the other tribes. Also, through Joseph, the other tribes will be enabled to realize their ancestry, who they are. But Joseph needs Judah. Joseph needs Judah, and this is indicated in the face-off between Judah and Joseph. What happened? Before they became reconciled, the brothers had come down to Egypt. The brothers had come down to Egypt to buy grain for their families. And Joseph knew who they were. They did not recognize him. Joseph framed Benjamin. Actually, Benjamin was his full brother. But Benjamin and Joseph were the sons of Jacob and Rachel, whereas the other brothers were the sons of Jacob, but from other different mothers. And Jacob had framed Benjamin to make him look like a thief. And then he had decided, he told the brothers, because Benjamin had been caught trying to steal his chalice, his precious cup, Benjamin will have to remain as a servant, as a slave, in punishment, as a penalty. And so Judah approached Joseph, had a confrontation with Joseph. And the Bible tells us in Genesis 44:18, then Judah approached him and said, he approached Joseph and said, "Please, my Lord, let now your servant speak something into my Lord's ears, and let not your wrath, your anger be kindled against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh." So that is a simple meaning, and that is what happened. And the story is there in the Bible. See in Genesis 44, and how after that Judah was told by Joseph that Joseph is their brother, that Joseph is him. He is the brother who they had sold, and then there was a reconciliation, and they all came down to Egypt. So that is a separate story, but what concerns us now is the specific formulation of the conversation between Judah and Joseph. And Judah said, "Oh my Lord, let my servant, please my Lord, let my servant speak something in your ears." Now this word please in Hebrew is be. And it also can mean in Hebrew in me, through me. And there's a double meaning here. And the Bible speaks to us on several levels, on several different levels of communication, of understanding, and each level has something to tell us. So this expression saying in me is saying, according to a great commentator, the Safat Emet, 1847 to 1905, the Safat Emet says, it was telling Joseph, in me, be in me, in Judah, that everything that Joseph has in some way at a metaphysical level is through Judah. Everything that Joseph has is through Judah. All for the sake of working together with Judah. As if subconsciously Judah intuitively understood that the person standing before him was Joseph, his brother. But nevertheless he was threatening Benjamin. And so Judah was offering himself in place of Benjamin. But at the same time there was something of a threat, something of an explanation. And he too was not necessarily fully conscious of the significance of what he was saying, but what he did say was, in me, that through me you are who you are. That the two halves need the other. Another point brought out by the same commentator, the Safat Emet, he points out the precious stone called Shoham. And remember that the priest, the high priest, he had a breastplate. He had a breastplate, and on this breastplate there were sacred gems with the names of all the 12 tribes on the gems, on the precious stones. And this breastplate, this plate here, on his chest and stomach, upper stomach, it was attached to his shoulders. It's attached to his shoulders by clasps. On the clasps were two Shoham stones, a Shoham stone on each clasp. And on the clasp were engraved the names of the tribes, in addition to the names of the tribes that were engraved on the precious stone on the shoulder plate, on the breastplate. And on the breastplate, Joseph also had his own stone, the Shoham stone. And so too, the clasps had on them a Shoham stone with the names of the tribes engraved on them. And this Shoham stone is a stone of Joseph. So Safat Emet was telling us that through Joseph, all of the tribes receive their sustenance. They exist in order to enable Joseph to do what he has to do. At some level, they have their own tasks to fulfill, their own deeds to carry out, their own goals to materialize. But in addition to that, they also work for a higher level that is epitomized and personalized and brought through to fruition through Joseph. Also that through this stone, the Shoham stone, on the shoulders, the stone of Joseph, on which were engraved the names of all of the tribes, 6 tribes on one stone, 6 tribes on the other, comes to tell us that through Joseph, these tribes are unified, come to one. From another commentator, based in Israel, 1950, written about 1950, 1951, he also speaks of Joseph, and he speaks of the lost 10 tribes, and he speaks of the children of Israel associated with Joseph. And he says they were known as Gomer and as Gomerites. And Gomer and Gomerites represent the lost 10 tribes of Israel in the book of Hosea. And they're also the name of Scythians and Cimmerian peoples who were in the north, were at first subjects of the Assyrians and then rebelled against the Assyrians and went to war against the Assyrians, and are to be identified with the lost 10 tribes in exile who managed to rebel and assert their independence before migrating to the north and the west and reassembling recongregation in Western Europe. So he is affirming the identification of these peoples who are known as Gemeri or Gomer as Joseph. Look it up in the book of Hosea, chapters 1 and 2, especially chapters 1, where Gomer is also the name of a loose woman symbolizing the lost 10 tribes in exile, who were to be headed by Joseph. They had a task to fulfill. According to other sources, the lost 10 tribes assimilated, became like the Gentiles, and lost awareness of their ancestry in order to elevate the Gentile peoples from within, to upgrade them. And this is what the Anglo-Saxon peoples were headed by Joseph, as well as the other tribes, have done on the whole. And this is what they were supposed to do, and this is what they have done. And amongst them, the tribe of Joseph is especially important. But Joseph, in the end times, in order to fulfill what he has to do, he needs to reunite with Joseph. He needs the association of Joseph. He needs the association of Judah. Judah and Joseph need each other. Judah is the Jewish people. The Jewish people is comprised of the tribes of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, the tribe of Levi, minority representatives of all the other tribes. All together make what the entity known as Judah in the Bible, in biblical terminology, and the present-day Jewish people. And they have a task of their own to fulfill. In the same way as Judah has a task, in the same way as they have a task to fulfill, so does Joseph have a task to fulfill. But in the end, they will need each other, and they need to come together and assist each other to fulfill what has to be done. And the principle of doing what has to be done will be done through Joseph. Joseph, who will recognize, assist, extend a helping hand to Judah. In the same way as Judah will also, on his part, do much to help Joseph. And Judah is much smaller than Joseph, but Judah can do a lot, is capable of doing a lot. And both portions, both Judah and Joseph, need to recognize the potential good in each other and to help each other become themselves. Not to merge one within the other, but each one to do what he has to do, but to strive to complement the other half of themselves, which for Judah is Joseph and Joseph is Judah. Thank you, may the Lord God of Israel bless you.